guys for coming. We're going to get into the command line in just a second once we have all the live stream stuff going on. Set up. We good? Am I on? Okay. There it is. There it is. All right. All right, so welcome. I'm Anna Sherman. I'm a developer at Carbon 5, and you guys are all here to learn about the command line. So if you are enjoying your pizza, you should give a thanks to Carbon 5. Our general manager is in the back because they paid for it. So yay, Carbon 5, thank you. So let's get into it. So the command line, as Code Academy describes it, is a quick, powerful, text-based interface developers use to more effectively and efficiently communicate with computers to accomplish a wider set of tasks. Learning how to use it will allow you to discover all that your computer is capable of. That is a whole long sentence of a whole bunch of stuff. But basically, the command line will help speed up your development time if you're a developer, but also just like let you have a better understanding of how your computer works just for using it. So what we're going to learn today is how to navigate to files, access files, and modify them. So the command line, like on your computer, everyone almost has a Mac here, or your Finder or your search window for your computer. When you go in and you're like, hey, I want to go find this file. So you go in, you type in the search bar, and you click around. So instead of clicking around, you're going to be able to use the command line to navigate the files on your computer. So before we really get into it, if everyone will go to this link here, this has some important links for you on it to help you with this workshop. So if you are on a PC, I am going to get you guys set up so you can SSH into an EC2 instance so we can all be using the same kind of command line. We won't go into like Windows commands, but it will give you an understanding of how to navigate around, and then you can transfer, like look up what you need to do for that. So if you guys go in there, we'll go ahead and get started with that. So I'm gonna pop that up here. If you're on a Mac, you're gonna wanna hit Command Space. It's gonna pop up a search on your computer and type in the word terminal and then hit enter, and that will open up a terminal for you. If you guys still need that link, I'll pop it back. Weird link. The Wi-Fi password is floor 5 gig is the network, and then innovation is the password. They're posted on the walls for you. You did H, maybe drop that
yes,
P.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, so everyone should be opening up a terminal is what we're doing. And if you are on a PC, you'll need to download PuTTY and then SSH into it. So you'll download this. If you're on a Mac, you don't need to SSH into the EC2 instance unless you are just really wanting to. And just install PuTTY and then the server. Okay, just checking. worries. Yeah, if you guys get stuck, let me know. We're just gonna give our Windows friends a second to download and get a terminal that they can use. Login as user is CodeXX. Your password is going to be CodeXX as well when it prompts you for it. You're in, so you're good. Okay, so yeah, you're going to open up PuTTY. So that's the IP address in here. So for Windows, it's this guy, yeah. Here is CodeXX. The password, so you're not going to see it type. There you go. All right, you're in. Oh yeah, it's on the website. Yep, it's on that.
Oh, okay. So you want
Yeah,
to go
so
to the website?
if you go to that link right there, yeah. Did we run out of plates? Sorry. That. For user and password, and that's what those are down here. You can hit, that's yes, that's fine. Yeah. So Chase, what we did was we went to this link here. It's going to have further, but it's good to have that up. And then for you, you're just going to open up a terminal. And to do that for your Mac, you'll just hit Command Space, type terminal, and then hit Enter. Search for it.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So everyone should have a terminal open. Yes? Cool. All right. So again, when we're using the command line, we refer to folders, like you think of a folder on your computer, as directories, and files and directories on your computer are organized into a file system. So that's what we're navigating through, getting that headspace. So you're going to see this a lot. If you're on a Mac, it's going to look like your name, the name of your computer. So this is basically your and then you have your user. So you have your device and your user, and then this tilde is currently the current directory you're in. Tilde stands for home directory. It's not your root, that's a different thing, but it is your home directory for that user. So like if you're in your file system and you go and you click on a user and then go through all of that, that's where you're at now. So if you've SSH'd into the EC2 instance, so you'll have this, which is the box, and then here's where you're at, ~home, and then this is just the command line prompt that you'll see. So once you see this at the end, that means you know you're on a new line, you're not in the middle of a process or anything like that. So that is what that $sign is at the end. Also, if you guys have any questions, just stop me and ask. So first thing we're going to learn is ls, the ls command, which is for listing out the files. So if you guys type in ls into your command line, you'll see a list of all the files in your home directory. And they should be listed with directories first, alphabetically, then files after that, alphabetically. And ls just stands for list. So ls takes options. If you give it an a dash a, so to give command line options, you give it a dash and then the option you want. So if you give it an a, it lists all the contents, including hidden files and directories. So hidden files and directories are named with a dot. So if you create a .in file for a directory, you can't see it when you do a normal ls, but if you do ls-a, then you'll see all of your dot files. L lists all the contents in long form, and we'll go through and we'll see these. You can go ahead and start trying them, typing them out, and that gives you more information about each file rather than just the name. And then if you give it a T, it'll order the files in the directories by the time they were last modified. So again, ls-a will give you all of the files in here. So previously we only saw Anna Sherman, folder, file.txt, and names, but now we see all these other files in our directory that we're currently in. And again, if you give it a -l, it'll give you your files in long form. So each column has a different meaning. So here's a column here. This is your write access. We're not going to get too into that today. And it's basically the actions that are permitted on that file and directory for your user. The next number is the number of hard links. That counts the number of child directories and files for that. So for here, these are 2 files. They don't have anything in them, but Anna Sherman here is a directory, and in it, it has 2 things. So it has 2 hard links. Then you also have the owner of the file, and then the group that that file belongs to. So the owner is CodeXX, and its group is CodeXX. And then you have the size of the file in bytes, followed after that, the date and time that it was modified, and then lastly, obviously, the name of the file and the directory. So these things are helpful if you're like trying to figure out something about this file. Like if you're like, man, what is taking up so much space on my computer? You do an ls-l and you can see what everything is in its length and size. And then anything else like, oh, why can't I edit this file? Oh, well, the permissions aren't correct here. So -l gives you more information. And then you have -t, and it orders the files by time they were last modified. So names.txt was modified last, and then file, and then Anna Sherman. You can also combine these options. So if you want to list all the files and order them by the last time they were modified, you'd give it an ls-at. So that lists out all the files and in order that they were last modified. Does that make sense? And you don't have to give it -a-t, you just combine them into one. All right, so the next command we're going to learn is pwd, which stands for print working directory. So this means you're somewhere in your file system, you're changing some code, and you look up and you're like, wait, where am I? So you do a print working directory, and it tells you from root where you are at. So root is this /. It's kind of a dangerous place to play in the command line if you are not super familiar with it, so we're not going to like go into that. But Basically, we're saying from root, we have home, and then we're in the CodeXX directory. So you should probably see your username there. So now we're going to create a directory. Yay! So just like opening up your Finder and right-clicking and saying new folder, this is what this command does. It stands for make directory. It creates a new directory in your current directory with a name that you provide it. Note that you should not give it spaced out names unless you provide it in quotes. So go ahead and make a directory with your first underscore your last name where you're at. And then when you do an ls, you should see your new directory in there. You probably have a lot of files where you're at because you're in the your user, but if you look for it and scan for it, you should be able to see after you create it your new directory. If anyone has any issues, just let me know. Cool. So now that we've created this directory, we want to be able to move into it. So that command to change directories into that directory is cd, and then the directory name that you want to move into. So it switches you to the directory that you specify. So you can give it, like for me, I'm going to change it into Anna Sherman. And when I do a pwd, print my working directory, I should see that now I'm in home CodeXX Anna Sherman. Note that if I wanted to change directories to a directory that's not directly below my path that I'm in, if it's not in the directory that I'm currently in, you have to give it like a full path to that directory or file. So to move back up, so like we had previously, we were at Anna Sherman CodeXX home. If I want to move back into CodeXX, an easy way to do that is to do cd ... That ... means go back one directory, go up one level. So you can chain these things together if I want to move up several directories. Hi, welcome. Are you here for the command line tutorial? Poetry might be over there, usually. Yep, no worries. Yeah, so if you want to move up 2 directories, you would do cd ... /... and it goes, I'm going to move up 1 directory, and then I'm going to move up another directory. So we're going to pause here. Helpful hint, up and down arrows let you navigate through past commands. So if you hit up and down, you should see like some of the stuff you've just been typing. So if you're like, oh man, I don't want to keep typing out pwd, or like I just typed out this really long command, or what was that thing, you can just hit up until you're at that command and whack enter and it'll execute. Also, you should be able to tab complete names and commands. So if you are in a file or in a directory and you're looking for a file that has like a really long name and you just start typing it out and hit tab, it should auto-complete. And that way it removes some of that human error where you're like, I just typed out this really long file name and then it was wrong and you don't see how it's wrong. So tab complete is awesome. Another thing to note is if you type clear and whack enter, it will shove everything up in your window so you can clear it out. It's still there. If you scroll up, you can still see all the commands you just did, but it just kind of gives you a clean and clear working space as you're going along. All right, so if we do a pwd, we should be in your newly created first and last name directory. And if you do an ls, you'll get nothing because there's nothing in that directory. So let's put something in there. So if you do touch and then give it a file name, so touch myfile.txt, it will create a new empty file inside the working directory, so where you're at, with the file name that you provide. So if you do touch file.txt and do an ls, you should see your new file there. There is nothing in this file. Touch just simply like instantiates a file there. Okay, now we're going to do something a little bit tricky. So this is going to be, I'll come around and help for this part. We are going to now edit that file, and we're going to do it from the command line. We're going to use Nano to do it. So what Nano does, it's a editor that is native to your command line, to your terminal. So if you type Nano and give it the file that you just created, it's going to pop open an editing screen. And what it wants, you'll go ahead and just type stuff in there. Go ahead and write a sentence. It can be silly. It can be about your favorite color. It can be about whatever. And then you're going to want to save the file. So just like you do, like, I want to save my file now that I've opened it, you'll do Control-O, and that writes it out. And then Control-X will exit the session. Yep. So if you have any trouble with this, just let me know and I'll come over and help you. Yeah.
I can't get back to it.
Yeah, just go and do CD. Yep, hit enter. So trick I'm teaching right now, if you just do CD and hit enter and you don't give it any path, nothing, it automatically takes you back to your home directory. So if you get lost in the world of your command line, that will bring you home. It's like your Ruby slippers. Yeah. Or if you do like an ls, did you create a directory here?
I have.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is when you walked us.
Yep. So if you do an ls right now, that yours is there. Yeah, it'll still be there. It wasn't showing up because you weren't in that directory. So when you do an ls, it only shows you the things that are directly inside of that. If you're nested somewhere else, it's not going to show them. So yeah, so you can change directories into there. So if you do CD and then the directory you want to be in, yeah, whichever one you create, is it Zoe? Yeah. Autocomplete and then hit enter. Yep, and then if you do an ls, yep, so you'll need to make a file. So, no, you're fine. So if you do touch and then your file name, whatever you want to call it. How's everyone else doing with Nano? Good? Awesome. And then so you control O and you hit enter, and then Control-X. So now you'll want to edit that file. So now you're here. So you want to do Nano and then the file that you just created. Is everyone editing their files and their command lines? Excited? Yeah? Yeah? Now, we could have edited these files in many different ways. You don't have to do it through the command line. You can open up an editor like Atom or Sublime or whatever your choice is for editing files. Edit them there, and then they would be updated, and then you could look at them. We're about to look to see how to get inside and see what we just wrote. So, but I just thought it'd be cool that we could learn how to Nano. And Nano's is in most terminals. Vim or VI is one that also is on every terminal that you'll ever get into. So if you have to go later on, if you have to SSH into a server and you need to edit a file, being able to edit them within that server is important. So everyone has a sentence in their file and it's saved and it's good. Cool. All right. So now let's see what's in it. So cat is short for concatenate, and what it does is it concatenates all the stuff in a file, all your lines, and prints them out to your console. So if you cat and then your file name, you should see the sentence that you put in your file. All right, so now we want to have a file that's pretty similar to our first file that we created. So we're going to go ahead and copy that file. So copy is CP in command line. So you'll do CP, your source file. So here our source file was file.txt. And then a target file, we'll give it the name of the file we want to create for the copy. So if you do CP, source file, space target file, and then do an ls, you should see both of those files now in your directory. You guys need any help? Oh yeah, so hit enter. Yep, there you go. And now try to do a cat of that file. Control O, writes it, and then hit enter. X. Up, up. Cool. So now you're going to copy that file. How's everyone doing? So now that we've copied our file, I'm like not super in love with my first file name because I've got a file and then a file too. So I really want to change the name of my first file that I created. So I want to call it file_1.txt. So move, so MV stands for move. It moves your file to a new location. And essentially that is how you can rename a file. So if I do an MV, my source file, and then the new location that I want this file at, it will go ahead and rename and move that file, and I do an ls, and it should show my rename file. So go ahead and rename one of your files with move. Does everyone moved a file, rename their file? Cool. All right. So now I actually don't like my file one at all, and I'm like, gosh, I want to get rid of this. So instead of right-clicking in my Finder and hitting delete, or clicking on it and hitting delete, you can do RM, which stands for remove, and you can give it the file name, and you do RM file name, and then if you do an ls, you should not see that file there anymore, and that deletes your file for you. And that's like a real delete. It's not like I'm going to go put it in your recycling bin for later. That's a delete. So you know. Cool. So RM, if you give it the optional, or the option -R, stands for recursive, and it says remove recursively. So if you are saying, I want to delete a directory, it goes and it deletes the directory and recursively deletes everything inside of that directory. This is a red slide because this can be dangerous. If you need to pay close attention when you're doing this because you will be deleting a lot of stuff. So, if you had we don't have to practice this one unless you want to. If you want to practice it, go ahead and create another directory inside of the directory you are in. Move into it, add a file, and then back out of that file back out of that directory with your cd ... and then go ahead and remove that directory. We're putting together several things we just did. We're going to make a directory, create a file, move into that directory, create a file, move out of that directory. It's like the hokey pokey. Jokes are bad, I know. They're pretty bad. Be very careful while you're doing this. Is everyone on that? We good to deleted that wanted to deleted a directory? Cool. So now we're going to talk about standard input. So it's abbreviated in your terminal and throughout the rest of this workshop as STDIN, which stands for standard input. And it's basically information that is put into your computer through your keyboard. So it's basically what you type in. And then you have standard output, abbreviated as stdout, and it's the information outputted after a process is run. So when we did cat our file, the sentence that printed out below was your standard out. And then we also have standard error, which is stderr, and it's just an error message output by a failed process. So these are just kind of terms that you'll hear like as you go on your development journey, standard in, standard out, and standard error. Now we're going to learn echo. Echo is a command that accepts a string as the standard input and then echoes the string back out in the terminal as a standard output. So if you type echo and then a string is represented with words or characters within quotes. So if you do echo hello world, it will output in the terminal hello world. So echo literally just kind of echoes what you give it. If you give it a variable, it will echo what the variable is. So that's how that can be useful. And then we've got gatormouse. And the gatormouse command redirects to the standard output, redirects the standard output to a file. So if we echo hello world, so the standard output was that string into a file called greetings.txt, and then you cat that file, you should see hello world. Also, if you do an ls, you should see that greetings.txt file. So what it does is it says the standard output from echo hello world is hello world, and it shoves that into a file. Then we have double gatormouse, is what that's what I call them. And it takes the standard output of the command on the left and appends or adds it to the file on the right. So previously greetings.txt wasn't there, and so when we did it with the, that should be a double pipe. This should be double pipe. But if you do echo hi double gatormouth to greetings.txt, it will add that to the bottom of that file. So rather than overwriting it, it appends to it. If you did just that gatormouth, it would overwrite. Another thing we want to know, like we've talked about before, like it's nice that we can hit the up arrow, but if you did a command like yesterday and you're like, oh man, that was so long ago, I don't want to hit up 15 times, you can do history. And history prints out the all the commands you've entered in that session. So if you close your terminal and exit the session, those commands would not be there. So if you do history, you'll see it, and it'll be your commands, and it'll print them out with numbers. So If you do history and I'm like, oh, I want to do an ls-a, what you do is you would type in exclamation point, or as we call it, bang, and then you would give it the number that you'd want to execute. So bang is execute 2, and it'll execute that command. Another important thing is searching. So grep stands for Global Regular Expression Print. Regular expressions are a whole other beast, but they help you search text. So if I grep for the word world in that file, it will output the line that it is on. So it's basically like search for world in this file. So we have also the pipe operator. And what pipe does is it takes the standard output of the previous command on the left and pipes it as a standard input to the command on the right. So you're like, oh, I want the result of this thing to go into this thing, to go into this thing, to go into this thing. So that's what pipe does. It strings all of those things together. So we want the result of history, and we want to grep for ls in it. So we're going to take history command and check for that, and it'll only pull up those commands that had ls in them. It's going to be super helpful if you're like, oh man, this was like weeks ago, it's in my history, my session's still open, but I remember there was this one word in it, but I don't remember anything else about it, and you can just grep for it and it'll pull it right up. Another thing we can do is we can sort. So we can sort files, so the contents inside. So sort takes the standard input and orders it alphabetically for the standard out. So if you well, I have this file here, and it has all of these names in them: Charlie, Alice, Dave, Alice, Bob. And I want those in alphabetical order. I can do sort, give it the file, and it will order those for me. Also, you can call unique on a file, and it will take all of the inputs in the file, and it will remove the sequential duplicates. So see how there's 2 Alice's here? It just removed the duplicate Alice. So it just removes sequential duplicates, is what unique does. Or adjacent, that's the other one. So that is basically what we're covering for this intro. We can go over anything more in depth if you guys want to, if you have questions. But that is just your intro to the command line. Thank you guys. That is my Twitter and my Instagram. I post events and stuff on both of those if you guys are interested. I know this went really quick, so really I have time to stay around. We can play around in the command line, whatever you guys want to do. Here are some upcoming events if you guys are interested in the community. There's going to be hack nights. They're every other Wednesday. Here's the next 3 that are going to be there. Scenic City Summit is a great conference that is going to be happening July 28th. There's going to be a Rails Bridge, which will be like a whole day thing on a Saturday, July 29th, and there's like a install fest to get you set up and ready for that on the 28th. And then there's also like a Chawtech Women's Know Your Value luncheon that is on the 28th of August. So thank you guys, and we can keep going on whatever you guys want, or if you have questions. What's up? You typically don't. I mean, you would have to have a script to do that. So you could run a script, and that script could do it, but there's nothing like that would do it natively from the command line. But that's a good question. So like when you create a new Rails app, it goes and it creates a whole bunch of stuff, but that's running a script to go, and it runs a whole bunch of commands on your computer and then does that for you. Yeah, this is live streamed. I'm gonna post it and make sure everything's good to go with that. But yeah, so you can go back and review. I know it went rather quickly, but yeah. Yeah, I'll post them, and if you guys are in ChawDev, I can post them there, or if you want to give me your email, I can email them to you. I don't have a really good way to host these online, but yeah, that's a good question. I'm just gonna shut off the stream, and then we can hang out.